Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bloodworth, and as you can see, I'm going to be doing a preview of the Master of the Rogue Spire, a classic fantasy RPG. This is currently in Kickstarter, and what I'm going to do is I'll go to the Kickstarter and show you the introductory video that's put out, and then I have downloaded the Quickstart guide, which is free, that you can get on drive-through. So when you're done watching this video, you can click on the link for drive-through and you can go pick it up yourself. It is free on drive-through, so you can take a look at it. And so I'll go through the video first, show you some of the details of the Kickstarter, and then I'll show you the guide and some of the other materials that came along with the download of the free Kickstarter kit or quick start kit. So let me shift over to that view first, and hope you enjoy.
We're Samurai Fight, and we're kickstarting a new tactical fantasy RPG called Master of the Rogue Spire, printed in 3 black and white softcover zines in homage to the roots of tabletop gaming. In Master of the Rogue Spire, there are no easy choices. Every action a character takes has repercussions. Sometimes, in order to strike the killing blow, one must let their defenses down, and even that small moment of weakness could spell disaster. Characters have 3 to 5 dice that they can use every round for movement, defense, offense, and reactions. But once these dice are exhausted, characters are weakened and vulnerable to injury. Do you use your highest die to poison the King's Cup, or do you save it to bolt out the door if the guards see you? These are the wagers that you must make when playing Master of the Rogue Spire. Hi, my name's Cale Stutzman, and I'm owner and head of design for Samurai Fight. I've been working in the games industry for many years on projects like Halo 3, Mystery Case Files, and Fairway Solitaire, but my true passion is tabletop gaming. So for this project, I've put together a team comprised of Mike DiCarlo, a veteran comic book artist for DC and Marvel, J. Everett Jackson, a freelance illustrator and editor who has a knack for drawing classic monsters, Jay Solaire Boone, a writer and RPG webcomic illustrator, also known as Bognard, Drew Sayers, design partner on the successfully kickstarted board game Sunrise City, and Chie Kamada, Japanese translator and localization manager. Master of the Rogue Spire is our love letter to classic fantasy gaming with a modern resource mechanic twist. The core rules are already written. In fact, you can go and play the preview Quick Start guide right now. It comes with 5 custom characters and a sample adventure to playtest with your gaming group, in person or online through Tabletop Simulator. And with your pledge, we can finish the art for the book and get it printed, in your choice of either English or Japanese. Thank you for your support.
Okay, so there you have the video, and it is now currently at 84% funded with 28 days remaining. So you can see its target goal is for 2,500. It's already a little over 2,000 at 2,089. I have not backed it yet, but I will most likely back it at the $30 level, which we'll go over here. So here's your $30 level. And this will give you everything in both PDF and softcover. So that's what I'm, most likely leaning towards doing. That way I get this set here. Plus, along with 30 tokens that come along with that particular pledge amount. And this deck of cards as well that comes along with it. So I'm most likely going to shift over to that, to that backing. So let me switch views again. And here's the Quick Start guide. So the Quick Start guide, like I said, I downloaded it online, through drive-through, and it's there for free. So you're welcome to jump over and take a look at it. And it's a fairly short document. It's about 27 pages long, and we'll just flip through it. So you have the startup, features of it. So you have the setup, roles, game flow, equipment, character sheet, example, and then the types of dice and the difficulty setting. So this uses a difficulty setting that the game master will assign a particular task, and then your role as the character is to try to hit your target number, which exceeds that difficulty level. And there's types of results, recovery, other dice rules, keeping track of time. So they have a whole section on, timing of the content, and then there's the game example. So flipping through and just going through the various pages. Actually, I will bring this one over here. So there's the Spire Master, which is the name of the GM, and then the party. So and the parties can be adjusted to anywhere from one character to, I guess the standard is roughly 5 characters. But you can decide and tweak it just like any other role-playing game to match the number of player characters you actually have. The equipment necessary is the a D4, a D6, a D10, a D12, and a D20. So you don't need a D8, I guess. So and then there's the tokens, the character sheet, pen and paper, the Quickstart guide, which I have here, to supplement the Damned Church, which I'm guessing is this encounter sheet that I do have. So I will take a look at that. So here's an example of a character sheet, and rather than show you that, I'll just show you one of the pre-rolled characters. So this here is, I'm not quite getting the whole thing in, so let me pull out a tiny bit. So this here, I'm sorry, let's just do this. So this here is a character sheet. Let's pull it out a little bit further if I can. Kind of hard to get the whole thing in there. So here we have the character sheet, and you can see they have various traits, and so his D4 trait is gathering food. So that's a fairly simple and easy task. He's going to put, this particular character is set up to have its D6 is its toughness, +1 armor, or without armor. So fairly tough with that. And then his D8 comes in here with a spin move and attack, all engaged. All right, so they have it divvied up between on this particular character. He has a belt of giant strength, which gives him a +4 capacity, a ring of jumping, a battle axe, which gives him a length of +2 power, deadly 1, large knife. So his rage power turns vitality die into a D6, but strains the top skill die. It is not initially exhausted, but once it is exhausted, it will require rest and heal. Deadly success, and one lower than the double the target difficulty. So, I mean, I don't quite know all the rules yet, but it's fairly fairly detailed. My one criticism about the character sheets, black borders, and it is kind of ink intensive. I mean, so much so that when it did double side, which I didn't actually intend to do, when it did double side, it did make the page warp. So, but even single sided wise, a lot of ink, so kind of ink intensive there. So back to the Quickstart book, and they go through and they talk about XP and how you get to the next XP level, equipment and wealth. Let's see, skills. There are traits. Traits define what a character can do well. It can be training in their background, their race, culture, or innate ability. Bognard is an outsider and a warrior. That means he grew up away from civilization, in his case, the forest, and trained to fight using melee weapons from a young age. He is also athletic, stealthy, and intimidating. If he uses these traits, he can roll his skill dice. If he doesn't, he can only roll his vitality die. So, because they're skills, he can use the skill dice. And there are different types of dice that are used. There's the skill die, there's the vitality die, and then there's the free die. And they go into that. So here is the types of dice here, which I just explained. So there we go. So vitality die is based on the character's health and ability. The skill is trained abilities, and the free die is sometimes a rule will call for a free die. A free die can only be used for one action and can be rolled and disregarded for rolling. Dice status is another kind of a unique, at least to me, it's a unique feature of the game, is that when you expend these die, you can become exhausted. If you use up your entire pool of dice that you have for that round, you can exceed it, in which case you become strained, and tired, and it becomes easier to wound you in that sense. Wounds, a die may be wounded when taking damage. When a die is wounded, it is always exhausted and will never refresh. So when you're carrying wounds, you can't refresh that particular die, I guess, until the wound is taken care of. So taking actions, you have, obviously 3 types of actions. You have skilled actions, unskilled actions, and free actions. So here they have the typical settings. So the target on a D4 is a 2. So you need to roll, higher than a 2, so a 3 or a 4, in order to be at least partially successful. A D6 is a 3. A D8 is a 4. So you can roughly see everything. Its base difficulty is set at roughly 50%. And then you would have modifiers to actually, allow you to, hit or be successful more often. You might have modifiers that are, negative consequences and making it harder to make those rolls. They do have a rule here where you can expend more energy and roll again if you weren't happy with that, and that also leads to, fatigue and, potential, greater failure. There's recovery rules for how you recover your, exhausted or strained dice, and that takes time. They have healing and natural healing, and on death's door is a status that you can fall into. If your vitality die is wounded, you're on death's door, and roll a free D4 every minute. When the die rolls a 1, the character dies. So, you're in pretty dire shape at that point, and if you roll, there's a 25% chance every minute that your character actually dies. So they go into specialty dice rules. Now they do have a fairly large section on keeping track of time, which is kind of interesting to me. It's and I'm looking forward to actually getting into it and seeing, why they spend so much time on keeping track of time. So that'll be interesting to see. Ranges versus short fists, short knife, medium, short sword, long. So I'm reading a section here on, on ranges and different, different functions of range, focused, clustering, movement speeds. The attack dice. So a player must attack first an unexhausted skill die. A successful attack exhausts and defends that die. Non-lethal attacks that roll a success and exhaust the defense die and have the option to strain it. Lethal attacks that roll success and exhaust the defense die and have the option to wound it. So there's different types of rolls that can have effects based on what the character chooses to do. And just like the video said, like you're making these choices as to where you're going to load up your highest powered die as opposed to your lower powered die, whether or not you're going to choose to exceed your number of die and potentially fatigue your character, make your character easier and more vulnerable in the following round. Attack power and bypass. All right, so defenses are opposed by attack power and defense bypass. Attack power negates defenses and can add to the positive final roll modifier, while bypass can only negate defenses. All weapons have attack power, depending largely on the size and lethality. Weapons that are made to puncture or circumvent armor, like arrows, will have some amount of bypass. So, and then they go through the roll modifiers. So the roll modifiers for your active rolls. Then there are some of the consequences. So exhausted characters, overwhelmed if a character has no dice available except for their vitality, because they're either strained or wounds, they are overwhelmed. Once characters are overwhelmed, any attack that succeeds on the vitality die will strain that die if the attack is non-lethal, or wound that die if the attack is lethal. Spontaneous combat contests. So they go through like an example of play here. So this is also in the Quickstart guide. And so you can start going through and just reading, step by step. This it looks like a three-round interaction. Like I said, this is really the first time that I'm tearing through this. So actually, they have a non-combat start off where you're looking for somebody. And so that takes a total of 2 rounds, gathering some information. And you can see that it starts off with this character here. Here's the dice selection for Hadrian's character. So he's using a D4 for his vitality, a D6 for his skill, and a D8 for his secondary skill here. So we have this here, and it shows what he needs to roll for his, his target, and what his, I'm assuming his bonus is for those things. So, and they go through the step by step, and you can see when he exhausts the skill, you put the token down that skill has been used. In this round here, in round 2, he refreshes. So on his next turn, half an hour later, he refreshes his vitality and his lowest exhausted skill die. By only using 1 skill per round, Hadrian won't ever overexert himself. So yeah, if you don't use up everything that you have available to you, you're not going to, stress your characters down or fatigue, him or her. And so you can see here in this next round, he leaves his vitality alone. He uses this D6 skill, and he maintains his D8 and his D4, so not utilizing them. And so he's going to refresh back to normal on this next step. Now he's into another round here, and he uses his highest level skill. And In encounter 3, which is a fight, you can see he uses both his vitality and his best skill. In around here, he's using it here. The assassin, so these are who he's fighting. So the assassin uses his 2. The Hadrian uses these 2 here. And you could see a different token. All right, so there's a skull, so he might have taken some damage in this. Let's see. On Hadrian's turn, his d6 is injured. So there you can see is injured, and his d8 is exhausted, so he's used that. He doesn't have many options left. He throws a punch with his d4 and rolls a 3, just enough to exhaust her d6. So this is what he hit here to get rid of this d6. If he can survive to the next round, he might have a chance. So once he exhausts this d6, the assassin is going to be completely depleted, and then he will have an advantage. The assassin is able to refresh these 2 versus Hadrian. The new round starts as the assassin gets her d4 and d6 refreshed. She is still without her d8, but really needs to take Hadrian out when he's at his weakest, so he has not refreshed yet. She attacks with a d6, and Hadrian's d4 last skill die is a d8 with a +1 armor defense. Her knife has attacked 1 attack power, which cancels out so she can roll both dice normally. She rolls a 3 and a 2, not enough to damage his d8. All right. Back to Hadrian. His d4 and his d8 refresh this turn, but his d6, which is wounded, does not. Remember, the wounds don't refresh. The adrenaline rush from getting stabbed and doing wonders for his ability to fight back. So he has his d4 and his d8. He takes out his rapier with his d4. His rapier has a +1 power. And since she doesn't have any armor on, it gets upgraded twice into a d10. He rolls an 8, and that's enough to wound her highest die. Even if she wasn't already exhausted, the tables have finally turned in Hadrian's direction. So now she is currently exhausted. On the assassin's turn, she decides this is the best chance to get out alive, and Hadrian used up all his dice, so he can't react when she bolts for the door. And so that's basically how it ends. I'm sorry, I didn't have that shifted over. So you can see there's a lot of action involved as far as making decisions of how to spend these die, when to spend them, or whether to hold on to them in order to keep yourself fresh. The guide also comes with a quick encounter setup, so you can test it out. And this is set up where you're fighting against a hobgoblin and then a number of goblins to match the number of player characters you're using. And it already sets it up, the chart for them, and you just mark in their more specific details, into the body and mind sections of each of these. And then it comes with the 5 character sheets, the preset characters. So there's Bognard the Barbarian, there's Hadrian Quick Fingers. I guess he's a 3rd level tiered leader of the group. Let's see, he's also a tier leader, 3rd level. So all these characters look like they're 3rd level. There's Gogric Stoutfire, ambitious and dogmatic. Doesn't seem to be like any real character classes mentioned here. Desmithriel of Darkwood, a leader. So all of them are tiered leaders. And this is Sha Fei, dogmatic and principled. These are personality traits. We don't get the full rule set, so you don't really know all of the traits, that the characters can have. You're just using these particular ones. Let's see if there's a little section on traits. talents and traits. It doesn't give you a list of them though, which is not necessary for using this anyway. So once again, I hope you enjoyed the video. Looks like a pretty interesting game. I like some of the mechanics. I have to get more into a detailed read and then a test run through it and see how it actually plays out. But it's certainly looking pretty good, and probably something that I'll most likely back. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing, and that way I can keep on producing content based on your recommendations. This particular game actually came to my attention on Facebook in On-Screen Gaming OSG, which is my Facebook community, and one of the members over there had actually posted a link for this, and so that's how I came across it. So if you have other Kickstarters out there that you'd like for me to take a look at, please leave a comment in the comment section, and I will certainly give it a look at it. And I'll let you know how this turns out. If I do decide to back it and I get the full rules, then I will I'll come back and do a playtest video on it. So have a good remainder of the week. I know I actually stayed home today for a snow day, so you enjoy the rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you sometime very soon on the game screen. You'll have a good one.